Hi everyone, my name is Jane Serumaga and I'm a mother of 3 beautiful children. And I am a wife to Mr. Serumaga. I'm so excited to be here with Jordan.
Perfect. So today we're going to be talking about parenting. So we're going to be talking about diaspora life, but more especially parenting.
Yes.
Because you were a mother. Recently, there has been videos surfacing internet about this topic. And I thought you were a good candidate to speak on this because parenting is hard. I'm a father of 2.
Yes.
And I know that, although I have young kids, it's still very hard. But I also think it would be more challenging if your kids are older and they have their own say and their own beliefs.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So talk to us about parenting. But before we go to parenting, tell us a little bit more about yourself. When did you come into this country and what do you do and what has been your view about America?
Well, thank you so much, Jordan. Personally, I want to let you know that I love parenting.
That's good.
It's such an honor to be a parent. But I came in the US. It's coming 12 years now.
12 years.
And I came here with my son, my firstborn son, who had reacted to medication and ended up with what we call Steven Johnson syndrome. And that's a severe reaction to medication. And so he ended up legally being blind, and we had to fly in here for that. And that's a long story that we can't go into now. But yes, later on, my youngest, who by then, she was 2 years, joined me with the father. And now we also have the last born, she's now 9 years. Because I have a 17, I have a 15, and then a 9-year-old.
Wow.
Yes, so we are settled in here and we are parenting in the United States.
That's good.
So I am in that parenting life of a child.
So before you came with your son, before you were joined with your other child, what were the challenges adjusting as a parent from Uganda, moving here into the US? What are the main challenges in regards to having a child?
Personally, I could be a little bit... my challenges could be different from other parents because I had a sick child with me. You get what I mean? Yes, I had a sick child and I came, I didn't know like people around. So that's also another big challenge. So you have a child and you're going to live with people you've never lived with. So that was quite a big challenge. But my son, by then he was just 5 years. So we were faced with challenges of, staying here and there. But as in the parenting area, what I noticed that children grow faster, or like they catch up so fast, that my son kind of wasn't a worry for me.
Right.
I was actually the worry because I ended up not eating some things, like in the hospital where we spent some time. He was eating everything. So I wasn't worried about that. Because it was
so he adjusted faster
very fast. And then I remember one time I was dressing up him to go to school. And he's like, Mommy, I'm not going to put on that shirt. I was like, why? This t-shirt is good, I've ironed it. He's like, no, that team lost last night. He already knows what was going on. So really, at that moment, there was not that a big challenge when it came to adjusting with the child. But yes, there were some challenges here and there, as I've told you, because coming with a sick child, it's quite a hard issue.
All right. So and now your firstborn is grown.
Yes, he's a big boy.
So talk about our tradition, because one of the things that you see, especially with African parents, is they want to raise up their kids the way that they were brought up. Which obviously is not going to happen. So for one perfect example, or we can use these 2 examples, tattoos. Many teenagers here want to get tattoos. How would you address that as an African mom raising children here in the US? Would that be a taboo, or do you let the kids do whatever they want? How would you address the issue of tattoos?
By the way,
or braiding hair.
Yes. I want to tell you, first of all, to the viewers, that for this discussion, I'm not perfect parent. Because parenting is really diverse. It's challenging. It's very very beautiful to be a parent, but it could be different, the way different people, look at different views about parenting. But the question you are asking me is a bit tricky one.
Well, at least I think we can say that, anyone that's viewing, we are not giving you the antidote of parenting.
No.
We are not saying do it this way
Yes.
and everything will be fine.
Yes.
But what we are trying to share here are things that may have worked and ideas that could be questionable. So listen and take it with a grain of salt. So
yes.
and you can determine.
So because now I have 2 teenagers in my house.
Yes.
2 teenagers, 1 boy and my daughter.
Right.
And as a parent who grew up in Africa and moved in the US, I noticed there is a big difference. What I did personally, as soon as I came in here, I realized that I've joined a new system of life, a new setting. It's not the same way I was raised or the system that works back in my country that I'm in right now. So I was like, how am I handling this? I need to try to adjust according to the system, because it's like, I usually say, it's like being a husband, you're a husband, and you come in my home, and you want to become a husband in my home. It can be tricky because Mr. Serumaga won't let you.
He will not like that. True.
So it's the same thing. When I came from Africa, in Uganda, I knew the system back home is set for that country. So here is totally different. When you come to the US, you're going to notice that the kids, the children, have what people look at the rights, right? And I noticed that I think, I needed to know more what is the rights.
What does it mean?
What does it mean? Because I felt like maybe I was misunderstanding what the rights are, because I could see that, most of the community members were like, these kids, they have their rights, Then I was like, I need to find more what rights are. Because when your child doesn't go to school, for instance, the school calls you and says, why is this child not at school? That's a right for this kid to be at school. When you take a child, 3-year-old or 2-year-old, to the hospital, and they weigh him or her, and kind of she's maybe malnutrition, they're going to ask what's going on, because this child belongs to the state. They believe that, and which is true, because the state takes care of these kids. So they have a right over them somehow, because they really can intervene in any way. The ambulance will be there when you need them. The schools are catered for.
The police will come.
So they really have a right over these kids somehow, because they take care of. So I was like, I needed to adjust a little bit and know how to go about everything. So going back to that, where you're talking about the braiding and all that, I had an incident, actually. I told you I have teenagers in my house. So our son comes up and says, Mom, and now the voice had changed. Mom, I want to do my hair.
Right.
And I'm going to take care of my hair. I'll do it. He's a good boy. Like, he takes care of himself. And so I was like, okay, we'll talk about it. I say, we'll talk about it, because I want to see what the dad thinks about it. Because when it comes to parenting, my dear, you are becoming your dad, but maybe with young babies, you're going to have to work together with your partner. For those who are married,
right?
You can't decide. I won't just wake up and say, oh, yes, go do that. We have to agree between you. So I asked my husband, and at first he couldn't buy that, because you know how back home, men are always
with a clean cut.
Yes. Actually, my youngest one time said, I was asking her, okay, if dad was lost, went missing, how would you try to describe, to the police? She says, oh, I'll tell them, did you see a baldy man? So now dad has been bald man. That's how back home they were raised in school. You had to keep your hair down. But to me, thank God my husband is very understanding man. When I explain to him, I'm like, I think as a parent, we need to choose which battles to fight. That's, to me, that's why I'm like, when it comes to parenting, it's totally to the viewers. They know how they, you know, how everyone looks at whatever their battles are to choose to fight. But as us here, we chose that really hair shouldn't be
it's not worth the fight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you understand?
Yes.
So, and the frustration on top of the work stress and all that, that's not a battle I should fight. If someone's gonna take care of their hair, the kid has explained to me, oh mommy, I'm gonna take care of my hair. I've never called him to do dishes and he said no because of hair. So I'm like,
so hair has not caused a problem
at all.
So, and the thing is, we talk about these things, and I'm sure people that are not of African descent may not even understand why it's such a big deal. But our tradition as African is very, what's the appropriate word? It's very set in stone. You know, you're expected to do things at a certain time. If you reach the age of 30 and you're a girl and you are not married,
then that's trouble.
Then the family will start to look at you and say, maybe something is wrong. Maybe, you know, if you're a guy, maybe, you know, the uncles will go out and look around, maybe for you, maybe you're shy, you're having a hard time. So our tradition is sort of, it's not dated, but it's sort of in a way where things are not easily changed. So the things you said make a lot of sense, because I think some parents, it's really just hard for them to say, okay, you know what? It's okay for me to knock if I'm going into my child's house. And I'm not just going to say, I pay the bills. You were supposed to do that as a parent.
Yes.
But I think this introduction of, you know, of give your kids some respect. I think it's hard for them to understand. They think respect, you know, might mean this kid is doing whatever they want.
Talking about that, you just reminded me recently in, for those of the viewers from Uganda, there was an incident where one pastor, a well-known pastor, I think had issues with a wife. And then he goes on to his TV station and is saying he has forgiven the children, his children. But in the actual sense, he needed the forgiveness from them. But because we are raised that parents don't
make
mess,
mistakes.
So, you know, when he was, instead of asking for forgiveness, he forgave the kids. So,
which is wrong,
which wasn't, to me, I was like, and I think most people were like, where did they go wrong?
I think most of the people that the African people that came to the diaspora came with one thing in mind: money and how to make home better, which is a good thing. But I think they should have realized later on that they are not here for a visit. You know, I'm sure anybody that's been here for over a year or 2 years, they're not on a visit visa.
Oh no.
They are here to stay. So you have to address other issues. Okay, so we are done with the visit visa, now we are permanent residents. What does that mean? It means you have to understand. This is why before you get a citizenship, the state has to make sure, do you understand
what you're going
what being an American is?
Yes.
Like you said, you're going to have kids. These kids belong to the state. They are getting free, you know, free education. They're getting free lunches. They are getting, you know, all these services. They get used to the parks. They can join football teams. So while in Africa, your child is your child. If I'm walking by and you're beating your kid, no one's going to say anything. You know, if anything else, they will say, let me add to that. But here, you're not going to slap your kid at the supermarket. You're not going to yell, because if you do that, now the state is going to get involved and they'll take the kid away. One
person sang in Uganda, I can say the song in Uganda, we said, you know, tulieno wagulu naye bitulumba ki nti nabyo by'amaanyi. So these superpowers or you know first world countries, I think even the rules or the set of laws they've set up is because of the extreme things that they've experienced. When a parent, when they say you shouldn't be spanking your child, I think it's because of the extreme abuse that has gone around as decades went on, you know, and they decided, you know what, we have to intervene. We've seen kids being tied in the basements for years. And, you know, so all that, they had to come up with rules. But I believe, seriously, I believe that no one is going to come. Police will want to knock at your door and say, oh, because you told your child to do dishes and your child calls the 911 and they take the kid. They really go through.
They'll find out.
Exactly what is going on. And if they realize that the kid is wrong, no one is gonna touch you. I have seen that. So the truth is, the government roles are there, but still, they won't just come and say, we are taking the kid. It all depends.
Yes. So talk about, as a grown-up, who, many of us, at least many of the people that grew up in Uganda, many never got real independence, even with their parents. You're an adult, you're married, but as soon as your father calls you, you run back to your father or your mother. But the kids here, they get independence very quickly, meaning that you have to talk to them as adults. And I think for African parents, it's challenging to negotiate with your kids. I have a 2-year-old. I have red pajamas and blue pajamas. I give them a choice. Which ones do you want to wear? While African parents, they usually do this. Why? Because I'm your father or your mother and I told you to do it. Talk about this day-to-day with kids. How do you show them that they can think for themselves and they don't have to rely on mommy or rely on daddy? Because that's what African tradition tends to do. While you're thinking, you're teaching them, you're just scaring them to always run back to you.
First of all, I want to say, I was reading this guy, one of the professors, Canadian professor, I think he passed. He's called Joe L. Kinklo, I think the name was kind of hard. But he talks of what they call kinder culture. Kinder culture is that moment where these kids, our kids, are stepping away in shadows, and they are doing their culture. They are doing their culture somehow. We are thinking that we are distancing ourselves from the culture, whatever is going on, where we are in America or everywhere, in Australia, wherever. But there's a culture that the kids are building away from us in the shadows. So I think that calls for us to try to help our kids to navigate our cultures, to navigate the cultures where they are, and on the other side, cherish the cultures, our cultures. So I believe that the cultures where we grew up from, as you said, we didn't say a thing. You could never. You could never say a thing. I'm telling you, you are not even wrong, but you were. One person did that video actually, where you were punished for standing. If you sat, you are punished. If you walked, you are punished. If you stood, you are punished. Because that's how the culture was. And we embraced it. But for us who have moved to other places, I will still insist that we can flex a little bit and learn, because we have a saying, atanaita yatenda mama we, yatenda nyina okufumba. But when you kuyita, when you go around and see other people who have cooked and you taste their food, you're like, oh, maybe my mom is not the only best cook. So we came here. There are things that I believe that even however much we cherish our cultures, there are some culture things we didn't come with. I've not so fast, maybe you've seen one. Have you seen a Mugisu man dancing around the city? We have a culture in Uganda where Abagisu culture dance during, I don't know which month, I'm forgetting, maybe July. They go and then they circumcise them in public.
We haven't seen that here.
Here, even if you love your culture so much and you're a Mugisu man, you're going to adjust.
You have to.
And you're going to take your kid maybe to the hospital to do that there. So if you think you are going to carry all the culture, why aren't you carrying that? You get what I mean? There's another culture in Uganda. I don't know if Westerners have it. I don't want to mention it, but it's for women. For women, they know the aunties take you and they teach you stuff. I don't know if these kids are being taught all that because their generation is different. So it's a specific, I don't want to mention it, but for those who know it, they know it. Those are things that right now the kids are not learning that. But it's a culture, right? So I feel like there are some cultures that will not move. That's one of them, whereby you're going to be so commanding and dictatorship. Because we in Africa, especially where I know very well, the pastors are dictating us. We Christians, you can never ask your pastor anything, you know. What he says, go sell your couches, sell your house, land and bring the money in the church. You can never
the house
ask.
of the Lord.
In the house of the Lord, you bring. At your workplace, the boss, when you got that job, he never said, this, okay, he told you this is your job. But the next day you can decide and say, okay, you're my driver, but you can do this too.
Yes.
And you're going to do it.
Yeah.
This is not where we are. Here you have a right. We need to feed that in our minds.
I think the issue is the freedom. You know, when as Africans we can say we want freedom, but do we know what freedom means? Because if I say I want freedom, that means you're also getting freedom. So that means I am free to speak however I want, but also I can't offend you. So if you say you want freedom, then that means even your enemies can speak. So the freedom is shared, and I think in an African family, you know, if you were to say everyone's okay, speak your mind. If you cook food and I don't like it, if my mom cooks something and I don't like it,
you just hit the how they say that? You hit the point right there, because my son, I've raised them, telling them, guys, you have to speak up. You have a right to speak up. Defend yourself. So one time I'm telling them something, I think he had gotten into some issue or what was it? But anyway, he tells me, Mommy, remember you told, I was like, Jesse, why do you have to say that? I think it was because I told you he's legally blind. So they were teaching him to use a cane. And he doesn't like it because he walks. He has partial sight. He can walk. So he didn't want that cane. And now me being raised as an African child, I respect those in authority.
Authority, yes.
The teachers, you know. So I'm like, Jesse, you have to listen. He's like, Mom, remember you told me to speak my mind. Yes. I don't want to use it. When I need to use it, I'll use it. Yes. But right now, I don't need it.
Yes.
I'm like, oh yeah, I told him to speak his mind.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's where, for having sisters and having 2 kids and just, I think that's where we struggle sometimes. Because my 2-year-old, I tell him to stop. Because if he's doing something, Jethro, stop.
Yeah.
But guess what he does? If I'm changing his diaper or there's something I'm not doing right, he tells me, Dad, stop. Daddy, stop. So now you see that this is shared. He will, at one point I tell him, go to bed. You see that he really doesn't want to. So now what do I do? Do I do what Africans do? Just throw him in the bed and tell him, sweep, or else. So I think maybe it's just part of our tradition is to have an ultimate authority. This person, you don't negotiate with them. They get to decide what happens. But also flipping on another side, I think people were hurt. Having that, father that doesn't negotiate, having that, strict father, I think people were hurt. They missed out on many opportunities of having a decent parent. So you see that, unfortunately, they are carrying that, that pain, that trauma to their kids. Because 1, they don't know a better way. And 2, they have not dealt with those issues. Because fortunately, I've never grown up in any, I've never been in any abusive situation. But I can see how someone that was abused, as a child, maybe there were multiple kids in the house. They had to take care of other kids. So they grew up with this tough survive or die, situation. And then they move to America. I don't have to survive.
There's what we, someone talks about as, they call it utopia space, whereby you have to let your child enjoy childhood, regardless of your experience, your own experience. I think maybe as parents, sometimes we've not given you chances to experience your childhood, because if I didn't put on shoes, I would want you to go through the same situation. Or maybe because I had a bad experience, then of course personally I use my experiences to teach my kids. But again, I would want them to to experience their own, because
their own
they are because they are really growing up in a different setting. And so going back to that, where you're saying that maybe we are traumatized, I personally think maybe we are not. I would differ a little bit, because that was culture. It wasn't like trauma. We accepted it. You know, sometimes we accept. You embrace the abuse. You are so used to it that you don't even now feel it is abuse.
That's the thing. It's it's okay. And people,
it becomes okay to us.
But same way you can be in an abusive relationship, and your family is telling you, leave that man, he's gonna kill you. But for you, you have accepted it. So I think for me, you know, growing up as a 10-year-old, having to take care of your 3 younger sisters. For you, it may be like, oh, life is hard. This is what you have to do to survive. But that was responsibility that was not yours. Your parents chose to have kids, and they dumped them on you. You should never have gone through that. But because you missed out on your young years taking care of your siblings, you don't know the value. You don't know, what it's like to be a teenager. So now you have teenagers who are telling you, oh, mommy, I want to have a sleepover. And then in the back of your mind, it's like, where did I have the sleepovers? It's almost as if you're missing out on your childhood. Now you're also blocking it for your child. Okay, not be.
When you're saying that, you remind me of being pessimistic, like where we are so negative on everything, maybe because really going back the experience where we are not letting people have that auto-opinion space. Because I think, yes, when you think of the time you went out with your friends, they made you do stuff that you didn't want to do. So you are always, as a parent, I'm telling you, as a parent, I'm going to be scared for my child. I'm always like, Jesse, are you sure? Are you sure? You get what I mean? I want that confirmation that my child is safe. And I really appreciate every parent who tries to, safeguard, because that's our job, to make sure our children are safe. Though on the other side, as I said, that we need to choose our battles right. So really, there are some that you're going to say no. But if you say no, why? The why is coming to you. Someone wants a good explanation. But sometimes we don't even explain. Maybe we're like, I just said,
just do it.
Do it. But someone wants to know why.
Why?
So those are the few areas we need to adjust and know, okay, when everyone needs an explanation. I've really learned, and I'm trying to teach myself more. And I beg all of us out there, immigrants, that we engage ourselves in the systems where we are. Because at work, I am a nurse, right? At work, you're taking the blood pressure of a patient. This blood pressure, this person knows the blood pressure limits. Like, I mean, he knows the baselines. He knows it. So that means this system has told people, their communities, they are aware, the kids are knowledgeable. So you just saying why, rather no, they would want an explanation from you as a parent.
So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about, because another video I saw, a gentleman said, if you didn't struggle and get yourself a visa to come to the US, I can't talk to you. So that's a perfect example. I'm one of those people that are fortunate that my father came here and he did everything for me, never had to suffer. And I am not sad about that.
Yes.
I would not prefer to do it myself. We have this system where if you suffered, you have to show your child that they have to suffer too. For me, that's trauma. You had to go through something tough and you went through it. Because I got a bicycle when I was 15 or 14, I'm not going to let my child wait because I have to provide.
That's what I told you about the utopian space. We have to let the kids, regardless of our experiences.
So this pain that people carry, a lot of time they never put it's a baggage they never rest down. Even when they have money, so they've moved to the US, they got the papers, now as citizens. Everything is good. There is no fear anymore that someone's gonna knock on your door. So if you unfortunately grew up in a war zone, after moving to the US 15 years, you could still have that PTSD of thinking, And a lot of people carry that.
Yeah,
You know, a lot of people work because of that. They have money on the bank. They can go on a vacation. They can spend 5,000. I was listening to what's his name? He's a financial advisor, very popular guy. I can put his photo up. Someone called into the show. This guy had millions on the account. Humble beginnings. He worked. He made all the money himself. Even in retirement, he could not take his wife out on vacation. This, if I spend some money, everything is gonna go back to zero. And for the same reason, people don't go to Uganda. Many people don't go to Uganda because the situation in Uganda when they left was so horrible. Now they have money. Now they have houses. They are more successful. But the fear that if I go back to what used to be, so that's for me. I see that people live life that way. It's in constant fear and. Regarding this parenting, that fear is carried on to their kids.
Yes.
You know, these kids, many of the kids that I went to school with, either went to nursing school or they're even doctors. But they are still living. They are the same exact way, even when they make money.
So I want to personally, I mean, this is my opinion, that the truth is, way before, when people came to diaspora, they had come with a mindset, work, go
back home.
Go back home, right? But now things have changed, right? Go back home. But you come, you get legal stay, right? You have children now in diaspora, where you are.
Yeah.
The truth is, okay, however much you are planning to go back home, your kids, believe me or not, you might want to believe this or not, these kids are for here.
They're Americans.
They are Americans, they are Australians, these kids belong to where they are right now. We have to accept that. And we have to work towards making their life a happy state in their countries. We need to realize that we are raising American children in an African setting, but they are American children. We will try to refuse that, but that's the fact. So, personally, I would say that even putting the kids aside, even you who thinks you're gonna go home, but most of your years are here. I would encourage that we establish ourselves here too, and this goes to the people. I always say, people who are back home, please stop pressurizing us. Please stop telling these people, hey, why haven't you built yet? Why haven't you bought the land yet? But this person is trying to make ends meet where he is, trying to invest where they are, trying to build houses or buy houses where they are, because they spend most of the time in these places. Why would you live in a miserable life
to make people home.
To make, not even people, yes, to please them by you building a big mansion where you don't live. I have a friend, a Cameroon friend of mine. She was telling me that before his uncle used to come, was living in New York, and the guy has a mansion back home. So she kept dreaming of the day she will come to see where uncle lives in New York. And when this lady came, she was disappointed. Really? This is how uncle lives, and uncle has a big mansion. And I know it happens to all of us.
Many
so
people.
Yeah, I really think that, okay, however much we want that for us, let it not be for our kids. Because the truth, these kids are being raised by mainly, I look at 3 areas. We, the parents, raise the kids. The school raise the kids. The media is raising our children. And this media that is raising our children is so negative about our continent, especially Africa. You get what I mean? So also the media, apart from the media, ourselves, believe me or not, we are also negative to some extent from where we came from. And these kids know the language we speak. We speak our local language, but they hear you talking about the regime in your country. They hear
The
you
wars.
at the wars. They hear you talk about the bad
Corruption.
roads, the corruption, and all that. So these kids, believe me, they might not love to go to that place
Because of
where
the-
you ran from. First of all, you came from that place, and you came here. They are wondering, first of all, if it was so good.
Why did you come?
Why
here?
did you come? And so they can't buy that. So I want to challenge myself every day that I should make this life better for them. Because these kids we are raising here, already they are being, I'm telling you, they have a challenge. I want to say, even as we parents, we are trying to hit on our kids, judge them and all that. By the way, my kids are not 100%, good kids. So don't think I'm saying this because my kids are the best. But I always want to go back. The Bible talks of, in the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, where the Bible talks of you children, our children, to obey us. But then when we parents usually read that, obeying. But then when you go down, I think verses 4, it tells us, parents, fathers, do not provoke your children. We sometimes provoke our children, reminding them, oh, the kids in Africa are not eating. One time my daughter, the young one, told Mommy, can you stop saying that because I'm not in Africa? And she was right. Because she's not in Africa, but every time I'm telling her, oh, the kids in Africa are not eating. And then the following day you want to encourage this kid to go to Africa, where you've been showing the negativity. So that kid, if he says one day, I don't want to go there, you don't have a right to say you pack and go. Because she or he knows all the evil about that land. But going back to, I believe we have to appreciate what God has done for us. Because remember the day when you sold your plot of land, your cows, to get the visa to go to that country where you are. And maybe you were 1,000 people and they gave 20 people to get the visa. And then when you end here, you are only being so pessimistic, as I said, being so negative. We are not looking at the good of the land. There is good. Let's embrace that good and let us make our kids love it. Make them comfortable because this is their country. And also remember that, for instance, the education system is so complex here. The system here is not only looking at academics. They look at extracurricular activities. Which extra activities we were less mindful when we were back home. We took them as failures. If you did that at campus, MDD, we used to say Musiru Siru Dala Dala. It's meaning that a very stupid person is doing that. But here, they respect that. So you find that our kids, whom we are so thinking that we care for, we work so hard to take care of them. For them, there are things that they value so much, and we are not part of them. And they feel then you're not a good parent.
You're not understanding.
You're not understanding because she or he went to the sports game. You didn't attend that game, soccer activity. In those activities, the parents take snacks to the kids. They do that manning booster. You have to come support the kids and all that. You never appear. So before his fellow white kids, friends, he's outcast.
He's already outcast. Yes, because of the parent.
Yeah. So as parents, I think we have to make sure we play our role to make it good life for the kids, because this is where they belong, believe me or not.
Yes, and I think to that point, as someone that came here when I was younger, I did see that many African parents really, they love their kids and they want the best for their kids. But because it was hard for them to adjust, they adjusted just enough. I can go to work, I can, speak English, and I can communicate. Obviously at the job, they're just workers. They are not there to learn, to progress further. If they push, they go to school, they learn enough to get a better job. It's always about, can this get me to the next job? Well, like for example, high school. Any parent that never went through high school should go and watch all the high school movies that are ever made if you're going to have any high schoolers. Because once the kids get to a point where they know more about the culture than you do, then it's easy for them to fool you. You know, because I see many parents even today who think they have good kids, but
they don't know we call the kind of culture.
You're right. They don't know the culture that they've developed, and they would not approve of the things. But because these parents are so fixed on the money, they don't know that their kids are smoking weed.
That's what I tell myself,
which is very unfortunate.
I'm telling you, my fellow parents, as I speak this, I speak it to myself.
Right.
Because what you're going through, I'm going through. Right. Most of us parents, we are giving the quantity time to the kids instead of the quality time. I don't know about other, but because as you're saying that we came to, you know, make ends meet, work and all that, maybe went to school, and yes, we are trying to make good life for you, good life for our kids, because for them, what we look at good life, the kids don't look at as good life. Yes. A kid would love to go, you go watch their show, maybe he's playing an instrument at school or he's in soccer, but you feel like I would pick a shift to make more money. And by the way, whichever way we do it, we are doing it for the good of our kids. But what am I trying to say is that the quality time, that undivided attention, whereby when a kid comes to explain to you, maybe he was bullied at school, you're giving all the attention, you're listening in. If they're explaining to you something, you give in that time between you and your child to listen to them and know what exactly is my child trying to say. What is he communicating to me by her or him staying away from me, pulling away from me in the bedroom and all that. Actually, I love reading some things here and there, but I read something on wired.com, I guess, where they talk about the neuroscience. They say that the kids, the teenagers, usually it's a fact that they just shut, the brain shuts. As soon as we start nagging them,
they're out. They sign out and then
they sign out.
Yeah.
And it's research made. The brain shuts and closes on us. And because we don't know, we feel like, oh my God, these kids. But yet, these are our gifts from God. And we really have to appreciate them because they don't have control over it. The brain shuts and it's going to be quiet on you.
Would you say that raising kids in America takes a much higher level of intelligence or carefulness or being more cautious as compared to maybe in Africa where, you know, you have more help? Because I think also any task that requires you to do maybe two people, the father and the mother, is harder than, you know, Uganda where you have, you know, you have your relatives, you have your extended families, you know, the kid, and, you know, also boarding school. You know, a lot of times the kids go to boarding school 8 or 9 months out of the year. So it's easier to parent that way.
And now you're asking me that. I need to emphasize this because I've had it from different viewers and all that. And I know this is not a debate, actually. We are just trying to find ways of how we can help ourselves more as parents. But to me, I kind of personally disagree, whereby we are thinking that the kids in Uganda are doing so well. I'm telling you, to me, what the little I've seen there is this world is the same.
The world is changing at the same
world
pace.
is changing at the same pace. Because I was in an Uber in Uganda, and this guy was driving in one of the rich suburbs in Uganda, and he tells me, you see that spot? All the rich kids are in that place drunk. They don't know even what's going on right now. One of them I picked yesterday to take back to her house, and she didn't know where her house was. So, to me, I think it's a global challenge to all of us. We just need to accept as parents that these are our gifts from God. And as I said, that we should try to emulate God. We should love and not judge our children and just know how best can I help. Instead of saying, what's wrong with you? We need to know how best can I help? How best can I do this? So, on the other side, yes, challenges are here. Even the parents back home, they have challenges according to the level and the standard of the country. And even us, we have the challenges here because For instance, you see how we sometimes say, okay, we do our own laundry, but we have the machines. We cook, but we have the gas cookers. Back home, someone doing laundry means washing with your hands. So the challenges are totally different, but also different solutions to them. Because you realize that here we have a lot of resources. The kids, yes, we spend the time with them, but again, we have different resources for them, and which are not in our countries and all that. So for me, I would not, because I'm loving raising my kids. I would never agree. I saw a show whereby this person was saying that the kids, going back where you were asking about the kids staying, for instance, in Africa and all that, then we bring them when they're adults and all that. Personally, I have a feeling that it would be the best. However crazy the situation could look, however the child will come up, it would be best for you to raise your child. But even the kids back in Africa, where we think they are being raised by parents, no. These kids are being raised by nannies. These kids are being raised in schools and with social media. You will realize that my kids, for instance, I've given them phones at 13 and 14. My youngest doesn't have a phone, right? The kid back home, when it's a rich family, 3-year-old or 4, they have their phone. You get what I mean? So that kind of thinking, oh, the kids in America, no, it's not that. Even if you give them the phone at 14, hey, it doesn't mean anything. They're gonna try to catch up with everything they missed at 3 and 4. So this thing is so wide. All I would say is that we just need to love and just love to nurture our kids the best way we can. If I have an advice from you, I'll take it. If I get it from a book, I'll take it. If I need to pray and seek God, I'll do it. Either way. But
where do you think that comes from you? Where do you think that open-mindedness and that willing to love your kids and accept your kids and all that? Do you think it's coming from how you were raised up, or is this something that, you came to the US and you looked around and you adjusted? Or does it have to do with where you are raised up?
I think to some extent, I would say both ends. Some from where I was raised, because personally I was raised by a single mother. So my mom is this person who could say, go bring a stick. And then you bring it. Of course, I would go hide, come. And I want to say this also, that parents, we shouldn't be forgetting how crazy we used to be too. Sometimes I think we forget that. But I remember I used to go to fetch water, and then I spend hours there playing, come back, and my mom sent me for a stick. And then I try to hide, maybe get a simple one that might not, hurt and all that. But I'm personally also this person that when I remember also the experiences which were not good around me, because I remember vividly a neighbor who used to insult this kid so bad, so bad. He was the child was the cousin sister to the husband, and they could punish this kid all the time, tie her hands. No one was there to help. Not the community. That's why I love these countries, because you're not gonna do that to the kid, And you know who saved that girl? It was my big sister. She was in her senior 3, I guess. She wrote a letter and said, please, if that child was yours, would you love to treat that child, your child to be treated like that? Then she pushed it under their door, a very crazy sister of mine. And that's when the chairman, the women leader in the community came and they sat and said, please, we want this kid to be taken back. So all that really, as you're saying, it could not have been good or bad, but it helped me understand. So when I came here, where it's a land of opportunity. Opportunity is not only in the finances. It is an opportunity to knowledge. It's an opportunity to widen your understanding in all areas of life. So I'm like, yes, I'm gonna grab on this and try to, go deeper on the way to do my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
As we finish this video, I want to encourage parents. And the reason why I'm not going to say I want to encourage kids, because you never see a kid holding a parent's hand while they cross the street. They're not leading them. It's the parents that are leading. Take time to understand these things, because whatever the kids turns out to be, if they've been in your custody the entire time, for me, I think you have greater responsibility than the kid, because if you're a teenager, teenagers gonna do what teenagers do. How much can you blame them because they didn't have guidance? You were supposed to provide the guidance. So I think when the kid grows up and they're 20, 25, at that point they're making decisions on their life. But here when they're young, really try to study your life. If there are things that happen in your life that you think you're passing on, I think it's your responsibility to either find a way of dealing with it, and the thing you said, utopia, create a space where the child can enjoy their life. Because many parents say that they are setting up, they are working for their kids. But if the relationship is not built, all the things that you're working for, or your plans of, your kids will put you in a nursing home, and you see those things, and they throw you there, and they'll walk away. And which will be hurtful, because you will say, I think I did a good job. But if you're in a nursing home and your kids don't come to see you, how can you honestly say you did a good job? So that means something somewhere. And I think every parent, you want to see your kids well, so don't put the pressure. Another thing while we finish, parents who came here and they're sending money to Uganda have a lot of responsibilities. So when they see that their kids are not working as hard as they did, this kid, 25, went to school, works here and there.
Before, I don't want to cut you off, but I don't want to forget this. I teach to myself every time, because I'm that person too, whereby you wanna I think most of us parents, we wanna compare our kids to other. The abilities are different. We need to learn that. I'm teaching that to myself all the time, saying, oh, so and so is doing. Why can't you do doctor? Become a doctor or become an engineer? No. Every kid has their own abilities. We have to accept that and let the kids be, because yes, they can be successful, but are they satisfied? Are they happy with what they gained?
Yes,
so that's also another area for me. I'm learning.
But I don't think many African people consider that.
We're gonna start. We are working on it.
Because you see, I know friends of mine that are doing well in fields that their parents did not approve, and their parents are still not happy. So if that's not trauma, I don't know what is. Because your parents told you become a doctor, and maybe you didn't, and you disappointed them. So now you're like, I don't want to carry that same disappointment. So now you're forcing your kids to do. I think the time has changed.
And also, as you are saying that we work and send money and all that, this also goes back to our fellow parents back in Africa, in Uganda, in Kenya, wherever we came from, that all of us, even us who are here, we should stop being judgmental to ourselves. That when I see my child, when you see my child going wrong, don't say next time, oh, she was on the show.
Now see, now see.
You saw she was on the show telling us some things. Now we saw Jesse doing this and that. We shouldn't be judgmental. We should be supportive to each other, open-minded. And also, accept that these people who are here working so hard and sending the money, they are cutting off the quality time they would spend with their children to send you the money that you are asking them. So please, I still insist or say that we should not be judgmental. We should be loving. When you see my child doing something wrong, feel the pain for me, feel the support for me, and say, oh my God, so and so, how can I help? Do you need a shoulder to cry on? Can we pray together? Thank you so much, Jordan, for, taking your time off and say, you know what, I think I need to go, Mrs. Serumaga, we talk about this. Yes. It's a beautiful time for young people coming up, and we discuss and try to, as I said, to make sure that this is working for all of us, parents and the children. Yes. I want to say thank you so much to all the parents out there. You are not alone. You are not alone. And I know wherever you are doing it for the best of the kids. For the kids.
And I think it's when we have these conversations, it's good for other parents to hear what other parents are going through and understand that this is a challenge for everybody. And like any challenge, you need to get informed of the challenge. Once you accept that it's a challenge, you get informed, you're more prepared, and you involve yourself. With other parents, you come up with solutions. Someone sees something that's working. So this is better than not saying anything.
Not saying
this is better than, you know, you be in your house and fight with your kids until someone beats someone. How can people find you? Because you also have a show and you also have a YouTube channel.
Oh, yes. I do a show on Facebook and YouTube, the Jane Serumaga Show.
Yes.
It's basically to inspire, we motivate ourselves and encourage ourselves as immigrants. We have a lot going on in our lives, in our marriages, in our social lives, in everything. So that's what we do on the media there. And yes, you can go on Facebook and find me and YouTube.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.